Hey everybody. So the question that I wanted to address today was for cryptocurrency deals that are going to be formed offshore. It seems to be that, especially with the uncertainty that you're getting with U.S. law, the outright, hesitancy and banning of cryptocurrency in China, people are seeking some jurisdictions where they can launch their crypto-related venture, and the question becomes, what is the best offshore jurisdictions? And I think there's three of them that really merit some understanding and some discussion. That's the Cook Islands, Nevis, and Belize. And there's three main areas that you really want to consider when you're evaluating the relative efficacy of using some of these offshore jurisdictions. That's asset protection, banking, and taxation. So let's start with asset protection. And all three of these are by and far the best jurisdictions as it relates to asset protection or limitation of liability. First, the Cook Islands. One, it's just impossible to find. Good luck even trying to find it on a map. It's an 8-hour flight from New Zealand after you fly in from LA. It's very difficult to find. You have to litigate there. And they have significant protections that have been tested in U.S. courts as it relates to the ability to enforce a judgment. And in most cases, the statute of limitations for a judgment is 2 years. So the ability to enforce that is extremely limited because you're almost always considering the route and the speed with which litigation works in the United States. You're almost never going to be able to make that the statute of limitations in the Cook Islands. You're always going to be too late. Looking at Nevis requires a bond of $30,000 just to file suit in Nevis against a Nevis-based corporation, and at the same time it follows the English rule, not the U.S. rule, where the loser has to pay the winner's attorney's fees. So it's a very costly proposition and a very risky proposition to litigate inside Nevis. Then finally, Belize, the big thing to consider is the fact that in Belize, contingent fee attorney relationships are illegal. So as you see often here with personal injury attorneys or other like that, they work on a contingent fee where they take a recovery, a percentage of the recovery. That's illegal in Belize. So for purposes of litigating in Belize, it's extremely expensive because no matter what the case is, you're going to have to come out of pocket to pay for your attorney as opposed to having the attorney chase his fee through a contingent fee, which is most common for creditors' rights attorneys in the United States. So that's the asset protection issue. With respect to banking, the primary concern is obviously if you're located in these jurisdictions, you need to be able to bring money in and out. And Belize is very strong. It's got K-Bank, Belize Bank. They're established. They're not fly-by-nights like a lot of these foreign banks are. And they have good access and interfaces and platforms for being able to conduct business outside of Belize with the banks. Going to the Cook Islands, you've got some more significant banks like ANZ Bank, even a Barclays Bank, which are great. They're obviously major international banks, but you do lose some degree of anonymity because those banks are typically known to cooperate with regulators and are more likely to divulge information because they operate in jurisdictions such as like the UK, Australia, New Zealand, where they're subject to significant regulation. So you have to be concerned with that. Nevis has a number of smaller banks. It's probably the less probative of the three, but there are banks there that you can do business with that your money is relatively safeguarded. And finally, the third issue is tax. Okay, and tax is a big thing, especially if you're a U.S. citizen, because as a U.S. citizen, you are taxed on your citizenship, not necessarily your residency, and that's going to be sort of the case. If I move to the U.K., I still owe taxes because I'm a citizen, not a resident. Now, with respect to an offshore corporation, that money is deemed to be earned in that jurisdiction, and there only is a tax implication when that money is repatriated or brought back to the United States. So for Belize and Nevis, that's great because for an international business corporation, there is no tax. All right, there's no tax unless you're operating with employees in those jurisdictions. So if you had some sort of an operation or something like that, it'd be one thing. If you're just hosting servers or that corporation owns assets that are outside either Nevis or Belize, then there is no tax, zero tax whatsoever at the local level. Obviously, the repatriation can create a tax implication for you in the United States. The Cook Islands is a simple 2% tax, which is pretty basic. Also, it's not a tax on certain assets or operations that are conducted outside the Cook Islands. And from all intents and purposes, you're not going to operate in the Cook Islands because it's remote, tiny, and has limited infrastructure beyond hosting servers. So that's sort of the analysis. There's a lot of questions I get. The Cayman Islands, Hong Kong. Why are these good and bad jurisdictions? That's probably another discussion for another time. But to answer the question in terms of where should I go if I want to be free from U.S. regulation, Canadian regulation, still want to be attractive to Chinese clients, your best bet, almost undoubtedly, Cook Islands, Nevis, and Belize. So I'm Adam Tracy. Email me, at@tracyfirm.com. Visit me, tracyfirm, TRACYFIRM.com, and we will chat soon. Take care.